for men who refuse to stay complacent. Welcome to the Upgraded Man Podcast with your host, Chris Anderson.
All right, welcome back to the Upgraded Man Podcast. Super excited. This is actually our inaugural guest episode. The show used to be Elevate Media Podcast, same concept, same topics, but really just focusing and dialing in on helping men who refuse to be complacent. And the last couple episodes for the Upgraded Man have been solo episodes, just me, which is a little awkward because I'm not as good as that. Versus interviewing other people and having conversations with other people. So very excited for today's episode. All about kind of leading yourself, overcoming obstacles, and choosing easy hard versus hard. So this is going to be a really good episode for you guys listening out there. We got Dr. Bobby Shelton on the show. Bobby, welcome to the Upgraded Man Podcast.
Hey, thank you so much. And I'm honored that I'm the first guest in this new venture of yours. So very exciting. And I like the focus, and I hope we have a great conversation.
Absolutely. Super excited about it. As always, it's kind of like life, right? Little kinks in the system when we have changes in misdirection or a new direction, and it kind of leads in some misdirection, and got all that worked out. And so super excited to get going in this. So I want to dive right in, right? Because your story's out there, what you do is out there, and we'll have people connect with you at the end. But, you said before that there was a moment where you sat in a chair until you could finally like yourself again. Before anything else, tell me about that chair in that moment.
Yeah. It took me a long time to get to that chair.
Sure.
So I started a self-help, self-improvement journey in 2019 into 2020, and it started with weight loss.
Mm-hmm.
And that stemmed from my wife telling me I was the angriest person that she knew one day. And I'm so grateful. She hates it when I say that, but I'm so grateful she did, because I soon realized I was. And so I said, I need to fix this. So I chased all these things. So make a long story longer, I guess. I got to that chair after doing a lot of things. I had lost 180 pounds. Didn't make me happy. Didn't make me less angry. I enrolled in a doctoral program because I hated reading and writing. I thought I needed to suffer. Well, February of 2025 is when this chair incident happened. And it was after I put another friend in the ground from suicide. And I had just hit an all-time low. And I realized somewhere in that mourning period, depression period, that I didn't like myself. And so I was sitting in this chair one Saturday morning, and I just told my wife, I won't stand up until I give myself permission. So it took me an hour and a half to get my body to do what my mind was telling it to do. And I'm so thankful for that, because it started a journey. A few minutes later, a friend of mine called and said, "How are you doing?" I told him I'm doing the worst I've ever done. I've never been that vulnerable or open with another man before that point. But that guy knew another guy in my area. So the friend that called me was in California. I live in the Virginia, DC area. Put me in contact with a gentleman who was at top of his game, oncologist, all these things. But he knew the right way to get me to talk to the right people to start this journey. So I hope that answers your question in a much longer way than you probably wanted me to. But.
No, I love it. And you mentioned in that you sat in that chair and you weren't going to give up until you gave yourself permission. What does that mean? Break that down for us. What was the purpose of sitting in that chair, and what permission were you looking for?
Well, I just happened to be in the chair, and my wife could tell I was in a super depressed state. I was withdrawn, and she said, "What are you thinking about?" And I said, "I'm thinking that I don't like myself and I want to, but I can't encourage myself to do that." And so, I knew I needed to give myself permission, because I was in the midst of writing a dissertation on the self-leadership theory, which says you can't lead others until you lead yourself. And I realized, man, I'm not leading myself. I'm doing nothing for myself. And, not in a selfish standpoint, because, most people didn't know I was in a depressed state. The only person was the person that I love the most and that I spend the most time with. Every time else, it was a faking it. But you know what? I was faking it for myself. And, I think as I observe society, I think so many of us are faking it for ourselves, right?
Sure.
We've outsourced our thoughts, our being, who we are as a person to either social media, religion, you name it, school. It can be a million things. It could be golf, And that's what I had done. I had put everything into achievements, but not for achievements for me, not for my purpose, my vision, my clarity, all the things good coaches will tell you.
Sure.
I had put it for the opinions of others. And there's no way I can ever say what you're thinking about me. Chances are you don't even think much about me, in the day-to-day life. But,
Sure.
you keep doing that time and time again, year after year after year. I mean, I was 46 years old, I guess, when this chair incident happened. So imagine living in that environment for 40 plus years,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's why it took an hour and a half, because, your brain is there to protect you.
Yeah.
And I think my brain was like, well, you say you want to do this, but you acting completely different. Like what's the choice?
Yeah.
And, but thank God I had this moment in my life and I was able to stand up. And I'm not saying I immediately liked myself. It
Sure.
took a while. It took a while. A big breakthrough happened on March 24th, the month prior. And then now, as we're sitting here today, over a year later, it's an ongoing journey. But I can tell you right now, I wake up every day with no anxiety, no depression, nothing. And I do one of these daily pages. I don't know if you've heard about this, where you just mind dump 3 pages a day. And I make everyone that I end with, I love you, Bobby. And I know that sounds corny as a man, sounds a little woo-woo, but imagine if that's the last thing you write before you start your day. It's like, now it's cemented, and now I have to prove that to myself, because I've done it, over 100 times now. I love you, Bobby. So
yeah. And it's interesting, because I mean, think as a generality or a general thought process, like men don't hear that very often, right? Truly hear that, and so with that, that's a great point, because I think that so many men suffer for it. We obviously, men, high suicide rates in the country, not if not the world. What does that take to like yourself?
I think it's finding and realizing for the first time who your being is. I don't know if you've heard people, generally it's older people, 60s, 70s, maybe 80s. They say, I feel the same way as I did when I was 14, 20, whatever age they put in there.
Yep.
Well, that's because you are the same person. It's just over time, what you allow your thoughts and your actions to do kind of steals your identity. You become something that you're not. I mean, how often, like I said, I live in the DC metro area. Most people, when they ask who you are, they want to know what your job is.
Right.
So most people associate with their job, but I'm Bobby, and that's all I am. And tapping into that, like, I liked myself as a kid. Why can't I in my 40s? Why didn't I in my 30s? Why didn't I in my 20s? And it's because I think I was putting my focus on the wrong things. And that's why I came up with this whole easy, hard versus hard concept that you mentioned earlier, because from my military brain and my influence from David Goggins, if you've heard of him, stay hard, those are words that I use for me. And then I realized, like, now I got to explain it to everyone, because it's like, what does that mean? Whatever. But yeah, it's just finding your being, knowing who you are. And if you have to go back and search for that and reestablish that, it's in all of us. And I just encourage everyone today to know that there's hope. There is promise that you can reach back and find that yourselves.
Yeah. How do we even do that, to reach back and kind of find that hope? If a man's listening to this who feels like kind of where you were, how can they kind of reach back?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that it all starts with self-assessment. You've got to take a look at where you're at today. Jot down the 4 or 5 things that you said to yourself that you do that you never did. Jot down the reactions. I was talking to a gentleman the other day, and he says that we have these encounters every day where we don't act like we are, no matter, how much goodness you're trying to project to the world. I mean, someone cuts you off in traffic, you get angry, if there's a long line at the grocery store, those are encounters, but and those are emotional encounters, but take stock of those and see how many of those per day throw you off your game, and how long do you let that happen? If someone cuts you off in traffic, what is it, 10 seconds maybe? Sure. But why do we let that, into our whole day? So this whole self-assessment, and then once you decide to go do something, obviously you can't change everything in one day. Start something small. Make a promise to yourself that you're going to keep. As I mentioned earlier, if I tell myself I'm going to do something today and I don't do it, it's going to be harder tomorrow. It's going to be even more difficult the month, year later. So do that, and then self-evaluate where you're going in your process. And it doesn't have to be metrics. I rail on metrics a lot because, the whole world is metrics now. We got Apple Watches, Oura Rings, Whoop straps. All in of themselves are not bad. But when you're making a change, there is no quantifiable. It's all qualitative. Was I a better man today than I was yesterday? Did I tap into my being more than my doing side more today, and becoming who I want to be in the world?
Yeah. And I think that's a great realization too. Like, a lot of us describe ourselves on the doing side, right?
Yeah.
It's all in the doing instead of the being of who we are. And I think we lose that, like how you were saying. And so you created this easy, hard method. What kind of led to that? Obviously your journey, but like actually writing this down in book form, and what does that framework look like?
Yeah, so I wrote it down because I needed a reminder for myself.
Sure.
I finally one day thought about it, is like, I'm chasing easy hard. And how I define easy hard is either the work you're doing for the approval of others, the work that, you want praise, adoration, but also it's your doing side. Like, what did I do? What did I accomplish? How much money do I have in my bank account? All the things that we've placed importance on, but may not be important to you. Whereas the hard is the work that matters to you. And when I say work, I don't mean your job necessarily.
Okay.
I mean, it's like, what's your work as a husband, a father, a baseball coach, whatever you do in life, like, are you doing it for you? Because, you probably heard the saying so many times, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah.
Well, the hard work fills up your cup. Like, no matter how much money we do, how many accomplishments, whatever title we got in our name, most people get burned out from that. I mean, we're seeing it rampant in the self-help leadership world today. Is like, everything's about burnout and fatigue. Well, if you find that hard work and you focus on your being, not only are you going to live better and probably your well-being is going to increase, but you're also going to be able to give back to others and you're going to feel more fulfilled. So the easy hard versus hard method just breaks it down to help people understand, because you're going to have to define what it is for you. I believe everyone's an N of one. What's my hard may not be yours. And if you try to mirror me, that's the exact problem we get into, right? Most people are like, hey, I want to be like this guy or this guy or this guy. I mentioned David Goggins there for a long time. I wanted to be the Virginian David Goggins. And I realized I'm not David Goggins. I never will be. Now, sure, I can get inspiration from him, but the real core was, why was I losing weight? Like, I weighed 354 pounds. You can't tell on this screen, but I'm 6'5". Okay. And so I guess I hit it well until I didn't. One day I'm in a doctor's office, boom, 354. I couldn't believe it. Cause I was in the military in my younger days, and so I started losing weight because I didn't want to appear fat, or I didn't want to look bad in my clothes or have people talk about me. Well, when you do something like that, it sounds like a hard, right? Most people are like, oh, that's hard to lose 180 pounds. Sure. And it is. I'm not discounting it. It's difficult. But I was doing it for the wrong reasons. So like, if you called me and said, hey, Bobby, let's go to dinner, and I hadn't worked out that day, I probably would say, oh yeah, I'd rather do that than this. Well, it wasn't until that shifted to a hard that I wanted to do it for my health, my mental state, my well-being. I wanted to show up every day and be the best version of myself. And that's when I really started to focus. I became more efficient. I became more effective. I was better to go back to the self-analysis, self-evaluation to see the flaws in my plan, because you can run it off, but I'm not encouraging anyone to do that, because I found myself depleted. Like, since that 180-pound weight loss, I've gained a few back in muscles and that kind of thing. But I wouldn't have been able to do that if I was stuck in that easy hard, that I was only doing it for image and image sake alone, but not for something deeper to get to who I am as a person.
Yeah. So with that, with men, like, they got jobs, they got families, some of them got kids. The easy hard seems to fill up the day, right? They go work, they go do the house chores, they go take care of their family, they maybe go to their kids' sporting events, all those things. Are we saying those are all easy hard because they're so busy? How do they fit in hard to fulfill, or to be, focused on their being versus all the doing?
Well, I think anything, it's dependent, right? So I can't give you an exact answer. Sure. But if you have children and that's your sole focus, then don't feel guilty that you're not doing as much, because what you are actually doing is being, because you're there, you're a good father. I have a friend who's talked to me about being frustrated about he's not advancing his career.
Mhm.
But when we talked about it, his home life is so much better. He's showing up for his kids. He's more present with them. He's kinder. He's gentler. And you know what? That is his hard. Right now in this stage of his life, people talk about seasons of life. Well, this season
Mhm.
of life for him is to take care of his kids. So I can't say if one thing's easy, hard, or hard, and they can probably bounce back and forth because it all depends on what you're doing at the time. And doing is kind of proverbial there, not actually like your focus of doing. But if you pick something and you want to go after it with your whole heart, and then don't feel ashamed for the things you don't do. I
Mhm.
mean, I'm sure you've experienced this with your podcasting, right? It,
Yeah.
it takes a lot of work to do a podcast, but that's your purpose. That's your vision right now. And you probably had to say no to some other things to do it. I heard a great quote one time. If you say yes to one thing, you say no to many things. But if you
Yep.
say no to one thing, you say no to just one thing. And that's kind of the whole purpose. So I know it's kind of like obtuse,
Uh-huh.
but if you can sit there and really think about what brings me joy, what is my purpose? Because you can't have your cake and eat it too.
Right.
Because eventually you're going to get burned out, tired. You're not going to be able to show up for other people. So yeah, I hope that helps. But again, it's a personal decision for every single person. And
Yeah.
trust me, all the time people are like, hey, is this my easy hard? Is this my hard? And I was like, only you can say that. Because if
Yeah.
I answer it for you, it immediately probably becomes easy hard if that's what you do. If you listen to my opinion versus your heart, then you're always going to be an easy hard. So that might be a litmus test that people can use.
So if someone is looking into that, say, they're hard, the thing they want to focus on, the thing that, maybe it is kids, maybe they're missing out on kids sporting events or something because they're working a lot. How do they shift to being more present, being at those events without, I guess, without deterring or taking away from, providing through their job? Does that make sense what
Yeah.
I'm trying to
Yeah. And I'm certainly not going to tell someone to burn the boats. Like if you
Sure.
decide that right now you're not doing your hard all the time. Yeah. Don't quit your job. Don't be one of these people to do that because you need that, right? You do need to provide for your family. That's part of us being men. And that's part of what we do as family members, as members of society. I encourage people to look for efficiencies. How often do we do things that are unnecessary because we think our job demands it? We stay at the office late. But how about
Sure.
if you still have some work to do, you still go to the baseball game and then you do it later? I'm not one of those guys that tells you to wake up early, but
Yeah.
sometimes you need to wake up early to get what you want done.
Mhm.
And, I'm not dogmatic. I'm not going to tell you wake up at 4 a.m., cold
Right.
plunge, sauna, journal, and go about your day. No. Find what works, because when you shift that mindset alone, just saying, hey, I'm going to spend more time with my family, everything else becomes easier. And I know
Mm.
a lot of times when we're ultra focused on like our jobs, because I was that man,
Right.
I did things that I didn't need to do because I thought it would advance me, and rarely does it. People know if you're a hard worker or not, if you're
Yeah.
but you don't need to go above and beyond. Start delegating. That was
Yep.
really difficult for me when I went on this path. Give things to other people and trust them. That's a sign of a good leader as well. If you can task someone and you don't care how it gets done, just as long as it gets done. And here's another thing. If they bring you an 80 or 90% solution, think of all the time that saved you.
Right.
I read the other day that 2 hours of training saves you something like 6 hours. It could save you 6 hours a week or something like that if you train someone else. I don't know if that's true or statistically proven or not, but
Yeah.
it makes sense, right? If I take 2 hours out of my day to show you how to do something and I save 6 hours, well, I
Yeah.
can then give that 6 hours to my child or to my hobby or to the new venture I'm going after, that sort of thing.
Yeah. So where does the hobbies fit in? Are those still part of hard, or are they easy hard, or is there even room for hobbies that you just enjoy doing?
Yeah, I think 100%, because it's that whole work-life harmony. I don't believe
Yep.
in
I don't
work-life
Yep.
balance because you're
Oh,
always
me
out of
for sure.
balance. But yeah, you've got to find things that lift your soul. I mean, we are humans, and that's the one thing as we get older, we don't do it as much, right? How often do you have conversations? Well, I used to do this. I used to do
Yeah.
this.
Yep.
Well, still do them. Maybe you can't do them as much as you used to, but make sure you take time. And that's another thing, that a big lesson I had to learn, that whole rest and rejuvenation for
Yeah.
myself. And, I now take 1 day a week where I try to do zero work. And I say try because there are some, so what I've narrowed that down to is I stop working the moment my wife wakes up. And that way I can spend all day doing things that she wants to do. Sometimes it's, it's even mowing the grass or doing some yard work or something like that. But that little shift right there, number one, it gives me a boundary to the work I'm doing, and it gives you a stop point. Because if you don't give yourself a stop point, then you're never going to stop, because you can always do more. It's funny. A lot of times we have nothing to do. My wife's like, "Oh, go work. I'm sure you have something to do." And I was like, "Yeah, sure. I always have something to do.
Yep.
I just choose not to do it right now." And, hobbies are a great way to do that. Community. I know one thing that men like to do is that we leave the withdrawal. You need to be around other people, specifically other men, because you get inspiration from them. You get ideas, you can really thrive in those environments as well. So I'm a big proponent of those. And just, I think most people know again, it goes all about giving yourself permission, just like I gave myself permission in a chair. Once you give yourself permission to grow, you're gonna figure it out. It's gonna maybe be a little messy at first, but eventually you're gonna figure out what rhythm works for you.
Yeah. And like, even right now, like the chapter I'm in, like, it's the same thing. Like, it feels super messy and trying to figure it all out. Like, giving myself room for hobbies, for that downtime kind of thing. I feel like with everything, with the business, with the podcast, with family stuff, I also coach soccer and everything, and trying to do your health, right? Like, there's something has to be sacrificed. Something has to get less attention. It's such a puzzle to try to fit it all together and figure out what works. And like you're saying, like, figure out truly, what fills you up and kind of what you like to be. Like, it's so much, right? And so many people have so much going on, which is, I guess, why we see so much anxiety and stuff in the society, right?
Yeah, I want to add something to that too.
Yeah.
Just because you're busy doesn't mean you can't, and not multitask, but multi-purpose your time. So, a lot of people say, I want to read more, just as an example, but I have to take my kid to this ballet or soccer or whatever it is. Well, while you're waiting for the kid, bring your book with you.
True.
Read while you're there. If you want to change your behavior, or you want to become a coach, or you want to do something different, practice in the environment that you're in right now. Again, that goes back to the not burn the boats down. Yeah. If you want to do something different, you can probably incrementally do that wherever you're at.
Right.
And, again, another thing is presence. We talk about presence a lot in society, but what is presence? Presence means that you're truly focused on this one thing at this time. Like right now, you and your audience are the most important people in my life, because this is what I chose to do right now with my time. If I was feeling guilty, I'm rushed, I got to do X, Y, and Z later, and not giving you my full, I'm not only robbing you, but I'm robbing myself, because I'm not aware. I may miss some wisdom that you say to me, because we're always learning from people. So I think situations, make sure you get the most out of them, and decide before you get out of a car to go to a band concert or something like that to support your child or your friend or whatever. This is what I want to be, and I'm going to learn for whatever I can do from this. And you won't even imagine how much downstream impact that'll have on your life and your happiness.
Yeah. And I think, and I just think back, because not everyone's an entrepreneur, not everyone's a business owner. Some people, they get up early, they go work 8 hours, 9-hour days, some 10. We got a lot of blue collar workers out there helping build the country and businesses. And then they come home and, it's either time for, their kids' events, spend time with family for a little bit, get dinner, get to bed, and do it again, every day. And maybe on the weekends they have some time off to do yard work or whatever. I'm just trying to think, for that person, how can they give themselves room? Where can they find that room to lean into the hard, right? Like, I know we talked about it. I'm just trying to get through to them listening right now, of like figuring out that focus and actually giving them time to take care of themselves. Because we see so many people giving up on life because, there's just so much on their shoulders. So I really want to kind of hit on that. Like, how can we just give them permission, or how can we help them find that permission inside themselves to take that breath and kind of lean into the hard versus just the easy hard?
Yeah, that's very difficult again.
I know. Yeah.
I give everyone permission right now. If I could give you a pill and help you with this, but I think you need to struggle with it a little bit to figure it out.
Yeah.
But again, that mindfulness, that determination that you apply to it, it might be that you want more right now than the universe or your life allows you to have. And simply acknowledging that and saying, okay, well, I'm going to be in the moment. Like presence it's been my word of the year, because I found that a lot of times I wasn't present. I wasn't, I was so focused on what I wanted to do. And that's where self-leadership becomes selfish, right? If you, and I know it's very hard to explain, but if you want to do something, let's say you just want to be a better man, you want to be an upgraded man, to use the name of the podcast here, you want to upgrade your life, do it in every single thing that you do, and don't worry about the outcome. If we chase the horizon, we're never going to catch it. Right. It might take a year or 2 years for you to finally get into the flow. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, I want a quick fix. Right. Well, you didn't get to where you're at quickly. You're not going to pull yourself out of it quickly. It might take a little bit longer. And I don't say that to discourage people. I say that to encourage people. People ask me all the time, what's the key to losing weight? It's consistency. It's showing up day in and day out. But once you get to the weight you need, you don't need as much time as you think. I mean, you catch all these gym bros all the time that say, oh, you got to spend 2-3 hours a day in the gym. No, the science even proves that once to maintain muscle mass, you have to do like 1/6 of the amount that it took you to get there. So if you were doing 60 minutes, you only need 10 minutes, and that's a week. So it's not like it. Sometimes, like I said, our misunderstanding of what it takes to be what we want to be, just back off a little bit. And this comes from a guy who was super obsessed with working out and thought that if I didn't work out 3 hours a day, I shouldn't even start. Well, no, while you're waiting for your coffee to brew in the morning, do a few push-ups, do a few body weight squats, get some movements in your day. If you're at your kid's soccer game, pace up and down the sidelines. Your kid will think, hey, he's really into my action. He wants to see every angle, but you're moving your body. I mean, and these are just small examples, but like, if it's something like I said, the book, you want to read more. Again, we all drive places, turn the radio off, start thinking about what you want to think about, start, considering what you, we all, I hate it when people say we all have the same 24 hours, but we all have 24 hours. Yes. But someone with kids has a lot less time than I have without kids. I get that. So you're going to have to find what works for you. Yeah. But once you do, once you even start doing it, you're going to start seeing it in everything you do. They say if you do how you do one thing, you do everything. Yeah. So imagine that, but pick something very small. Like I said, go back to that list of 10 things, 5 things, whatever that you wanted to do, pick one of them and commit 5 minutes for 7 days and then observe what happens. Do you feel better? Do you feel more energized? Are you more present? Are you a better man? If the answer is yes, then go for another 7 days. Go for another 7 days. And then once you get that mastered, add another something, add another something. And before you get it, before you know it, you'll be the most efficient man you've ever been in your life. Right. And it'll wow you how much time you actually wasted thinking about what you wanted to do versus about being what you want to do. I don't know if you're into Stoic philosophy or at all.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But Marcus Aurelius says, stop thinking about the man you want to be and be one.
Yep.
That's probably a bad paraphrase, but what a concept. How often do we sit and think? Like, I used to be an overthinker. I'd sit for hours and think about what I wasn't doing. And then I realized, at first I said, I'm giving myself 30 minutes a day to think, and then I'm going to start doing. And now I've even narrowed it down with the daily pages I was talking about earlier. Once those daily pages are over, I have like what I want to do next, and I just go out there and do it. And that alone has saved me so much time that now I have that free time for the hobbies. I have the free time to, go and get education if that's what I want to do to advance my career. I know I'm talking a lot here, so
no, I like it. And I think with that too, like my mind went to something I learned from Dan Martell is time audit, right? So we have all these sayings that we're doing, we want to do. if you would just take a week and audit your time, what are you actually spending time doing? So, maybe you have a job, maybe you have a business, like what are you doing in the business? What's taking up your time? And even this thing, your cell phone, how much time are you spending just scrolling on your cell phone? If you would actually go and track all of that, you would find a little bit more breathing room in your schedule for one.
Yep.
And then you could start manipulating it to be what you want to be. Because that's something like, I don't know, late life thought a lot about, like life is short. Even if you live to 100, life's still short. It goes in a blink of an eye.
Yep.
So like, what do you want to do with life? Like, what do you want to enjoy? Like, I want to enjoy more experiences because I have 3 little kids and, with our family, like more experiences, like let them see stuff and be a part of that with them. And, obviously fitness is big for me. So I want to make sure I'm still being part of fitness and coaching soccer and, golfing. Like you mentioned that earlier, like that's something I enjoy. So like, how can I fit that in? How do I need to shift things? And it's just been like figuring out, and then delegation, obviously with a business, like how can I delegate more to the team correctly? And it's just, I think understanding where your time's actually going and seeing how much we're, quote unquote wasting, and then shifting things around the best we can to kind of build the life we want to have, kind of thing.
No, I love it. And I like a time audit, because a time audit, if you're honest with yourself, it's got to be an honest time audit.
Yes.
If you pick up your phone and scroll for 15 minutes, you need to write that down.
Yep.
I also say, don't be so hard on yourself, because if you're hard on yourself or you try to cheat the time audit, you're not really seeing where you're at. You're not really evaluating where you're at this moment, because you've got to make a change at where you're at now. I don't know if I could do this on your show, but as far as the phone goes, and here's an absolute I'm going to give you, because I think everyone that I've turned this on to there's this little thing right here. It's called a brick. It's a little, I don't even know how it works, but you scan your phone and it bricks your phone. And so you select what apps you can get into. So now on my work day, I bleep this thing in. It just happens to be on my desk now, which is close. But I normally take this and like leave it in my bedroom or somewhere where I have to consciously go unbrick my phone. So people can still call me, but I can't look at any social media. I can't even look at the web browser on my phone. And what it does is it gives you intentionality. Like anything you do, if it's intentional, it's probably okay. I mean, if you're not hurting someone, of course, but like if you decide to get on your phone, maybe that is how you truly wind down, but be intentional about it. I like to tell people one of the biggest helps to getting your mind right and becoming a better man. If something gives you angst or you feel worse after you did it, then don't do it. Why do we do it?
Right.
It's like, what did you listen to this morning? Did it make you happier? Did it give you anxiety?
Right.
And it's so easy. I stopped watching the news 6 years ago. Haven't watched it at all. For one, people will tell you if they think it's important enough. And two, it allows you so much time and so much mental space to then go out there and truly audit your time. Because imagine, like I said, imagine if you think about some world event that doesn't really impact you. And I'm not saying you don't have empathy and you don't care for people. Certainly, I'm not saying that. I'm talking about you as a person. Get yourself to the point where then you can go and then give to others. But imagine the mental space that takes from us, the cognitive tiredness, worrying about something we can't control. Again, going back to the Stoics, they have the dichotomy of control. What can you control? What can you can't? You can control 2 things, in my opinion, your thoughts and your actions. So be intentional about both of those and watch what happens, folks. I'm going to tell you, it sounds too simple to be true. And maybe the simple things are what we need to practice in our lives versus these complex models 100%. And time management systems. There's the Pomodoro method. There's a million things out there, and I'm not downplaying any single one of them, but don't assume that it works for you. Find what works for you. Like Burger King, I say this all the time. Burger King had it right. Have it your way. Find it your way. And then to follow up with another slogan, Nike said, just do it. Stop thinking, just go out there and do it. Because the more time you think, when you think, you take no action. So 0 times anything is 0. But if you spend a minute, 5 minutes, like we talked about earlier, times 365, imagine the increase in your productivity and your development.
Yeah, because over a week, if you spent 1 minute working out, we'll say, or 1 minute reading versus 0 minutes every day, you've gone farther in that week, even with 1 minute a day, versus someone who never did anything because, analysis or paralysis by analysis type thing. So
Yep.
I think, just 1% better each day. We've heard that over and over. And I think, what can we do? Small things today to improve, to become the upgrade man, to become better, to be living in our hard. And I think self-leadership is a big part of that, right? Kind of being true to ourselves and keeping, I like that, keeping it simple, because yes, there are all these methods, but to get to the hour-long workout, maybe you have to start with, the 10 minutes while your coffee is brewing, to get in that habit and keeping it simple. But self-leadership, obviously you have, the self-leadership lab, right? The podcast you host. Why is that so important to be able to have self-leadership, especially today's world?
Yeah, I personally think any leadership that you do, any theory, and there's thousands of them out there probably, it all starts with you, and it's the only one that is you focused, because leadership, the basic definition is getting someone to do something they don't really want to do on their own. Well, what about yourself? What do you not want to do on your own? All the things we talked about today, maybe you say you want to do them, but you make excuses, you make this kind of thing. So self-leadership, the classical definition is lead yourself so you can then lead others. I've changed that for my personal belief. It's govern your inner world so that you can govern your external world. So take care of your house, clean your house. In yoga, they say, if you want to change the world, start with you, then your community, then the world. Well, we all need to start with ourselves. And I think that's the missing element to leadership. Sure, you want to be a great leader. You want to do what's best for your employees. You want to take care of other people. But if you're not taking care of yourself, what's the long-term effect of that? Well, we've talked about it: depression, anxiety, weight gain. Unfortunately, way too many people commit suicide because they don't see a way out. Well, the way out is probably within. And I encourage everyone, just take stock of yourself. And, earlier we said, well, what if we don't have time or we don't have the resources to do this? Well, you can always, thoughts are free. Kindness is free. Be kind to yourself. And after all, who do we talk to the most in the world? It's ourselves.
Yeah.
So become your best friend. Don't put yourself down. Self-talk, any self-dash thing is part of self-leadership. But self-talk for me was so terrible. I had to start speaking it aloud so others could hear it. They'd come around the corner and say, who are you talking to? I'm like, myself. And they're like, dude, that is terrible. and it was terrible, because the more we think, the less we do. We're like, oh, I'm not good enough. I'm failing everything. And it's funny, the brain is always like, I never do something, right? We always go to the extreme of everything. So be very kind to yourself, lead yourself, and become comfortable with yourself. And if you're not doing that right now, I invite you all to just give yourself permission, and not tomorrow, right now, the next minute. People say, I have a bad day. Stop that. Say, I had a bad minute. I might have had a bad 10 minutes.
Don't let it
recenter and go forward.
Day. Yeah. Why do men specifically have such trouble being kind to themselves?
I think it's generational, but I'm assuming you're way younger than I am. But my generation, Gen X, we were all told, oh, don't cry, rub dirt on it, that sort of thing. Right?
Yep.
And you got to be strong. And then now as generations come up, being a man is kind of being downgraded. It's like, oh, you're a man, you got privilege and all this stuff. And I think men hear that and they internalize it and they start to believe it. But there have been a lot of bad men in the world, but man, there've been a lot of really good men. Yep. So I will strive to be a good man all the time. Because any bad deed, it all depends on your intent. So if you don't intend to harm someone, you're probably a good man. So you've got to just start with that premise that I am good and stop downplaying it, because you can't pay for the sins of your fathers or your forefathers, or, you've got to go out there and make the decision to be a good man. So I think a lot of men, it's social. I also think there's imposter syndrome and this whole Instagram, Facebook, everyone shows their best lives. And you're like, well, I'm not living that. I'm stuck in this office and this job I don't like or whatever. Don't downplay it. What impact can you make where you are right now? Be the change you want to see in others. That famous quote as well.
Yeah.
Be that for yourself. Believe it and
Yeah,
start acting on it.
I think just masculinity has been under fire for so long. And I like
Mhm.
kind of like what you said, like being torn down. And, we've just been told if you're masculine, if you act like a man, it's toxic, right? And so that I think has been just torn down. And I think there's a line I think is masculinity, I think is needed, but it's like the quote, I'd rather be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war kind of thing. Like to be masculine and be able to lead and get things done, but being able to do it with, I guess, grace maybe and kindness. Because obviously, like you said, there have been bad men in the world. And I think they given a lot of other men, they put a bad title on it, I guess.
Yep.
It's kind of what I'm seeing. And I think we need to kind of take back that what is it to be masculine? And I think it's the ability to be dangerous when needed, but being able to be kind and gracious and a good leader. Again, I just go back to that quote. I'd rather be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war kind of thing.
Yeah. No, I like it. And there's so many negative influences out there. You talk about toxic masculinity, the bro culture.
Yeah.
It's all based on doing. Like I encourage
Mhm.
everyone, if you're into that, just take an observation of like what they're talking about. They're talking about money, cars, these things. Maybe those don't mean anything to you. Maybe being the best father or being the best gardener is what's right for you. Now, strength is not a bad thing. You got to have
Right.
physical strength because science has proven that the more muscle we have, the better we are.
Yep.
Take time to develop your body because, that allows you to show up more. It allows you to be more. But at the same time, it's like we need more positive role models. We almost need like we need to redefine bro culture. And maybe that's what you're doing here on the show. In fact, I know that's what you're doing on the show.
Right, yeah.
You're teaching men practical things to think about, the self-discipline, but don't focus on the results. Like decide what you want in life and what makes you happy. And don't chase what your neighbor has. We've been saying that for years, right? Your kids are like, just because they do it doesn't mean you need to do it, right? I'm sure you've been told that by your parents.
Yeah.
Decide what you want to do and be dogmatic about it. Develop your philosophy in life that is so sound, no one can change it unless you absolutely get information that you are dead wrong and you need to make a change in your own thing. Be steadfast, be solid. That's strength. And you can do that without being hurtful to anyone. I mean, I certainly don't want to hurt any creature, whether they're, a female or even an animal. I want to live with peace with everyone because I believe that's strength.
Yeah.
That's my take on it.
No, yeah, I agree. And I think, we don't want to have to hurt anyone ever. And we don't want to have those conflicts. But like in the moments, like I've been in a couple of moments where where I've had to step in and physically stop things from happening to other people. And you just have to be prepared for that. You don't want those things to happen. You want, like, for example, here, and I wasn't in this situation, but we had here locally, a mom, her kid in shopping cart, unloading at their car. A man walks up, puts both hands on the child, tries to take the child out of the cart, and mom yells, makes a scene. This is where it gets me. The guy casually, in the article in the police report, casually walks to the store, gets hand sanitizer from the door area, and casually walks out and down the road. And no one stopped him. Not one person in the whole parking lot stopped him. And my mind went to, if I was there, like, he's not leaving. Like, in that moment, like, he just tried to take a kid. And I think that's kind of where my mind is with, like, not masculinity. Not that I'm, like, super masculine or something like that, but, like, being able to be at peace, have peace, make peace, but in the moments that are needed, maybe it's time to have to get physical or become a different person for safety. And that's kind of what I just couldn't believe that no one stepped up to stop this guy who could now go and try to abduct another child. It's just crazy to me.
Yeah. No, if you can prevent that, like I said, you train for the situations that you hope you never use, right? It's like that whole martial arts thing. It's like, just because I can doesn't mean I will.
Exactly.
But you know what? If you're prepared, I mean, it's better to be prepared and not have to use it than to be unprepared and need it.
Yeah. And I think,
so
go ahead. Yeah.
yeah, I just say that gets confused to a lot of people because that becomes the God, that becomes the
Right.
easy hard is like, oh, I got to do this, I got to be muscular, But some of the most savage warriors I've met in my life, Navy SEALs, Delta Force guys, you'd never know it because they're the most calm, reasoned people in general situations. Like they'll do it when they have to. But one of them, I asked them one time, and they said, "Well, it's not like a knob. I don't know if you're old enough to remember the dimmers used to be like these little knobs, like round things. Now you slide it up and down.
Yep.
It's not like that for them. It's a switch.
Yep.
Like it's like they lever that switch and they change who they are in the moment, but only when they need to."
Yeah.
And then hopefully they can cut it down. And I know there's some cognitive things and stuff like that
Sure.
that people suffer from, but for the most part, the people who excel in that craft and can walk away from it, they have that balance.
Yeah. And I think kind of it goes to what you're saying, right? They're able to understand their easy, hard, and hard, and giving them permission and self-lead, right? So they're doing all that fairly well. Obviously, no one's perfect, but
right.
They've learned through those things. And is there training that people should do, like the regular, non-military people? Are there things they can do to, like, besides just implementing, I'm going to do this for 1 minute today to get better? Or is there other things that they can do to improve their self-leadership and kind of being able to not necessarily section things off in their life, but like have that distinction of where they can turn a switch on for certain things?
Yeah, I think negative visualization is a tool that people can use. We all talk about visualization as a positive, but like take that situation you talked about in the grocery store parking lot. Like imagine that happened, and how would you respond?
Right.
Imagine you lost everything. Let's say you lose your job. How would you respond? Imagine you had to stand up and protect one of your kids' lives or your own life. How would you respond? And again, the more you kind of do those little scenarios, and I'm not talking about dwelling in it because, as we know, I'm not a big fan of overthinking things.
Yeah.
While you're driving, just think of like, hey, what's the worst thing that can happen? Or when I go back to those occurrences I was talking about, those encounters, think about how you reacted last time someone cut you off in traffic. How did you want to react? And if you can visualize that, then when the situation comes, God forbid, you're able to then react to it and prepare yourself. And I think that can be done for anything in self-leadership. If you want to be better, think about yourself being better. Think about coming home from work, instead of being dog tired, being present and playing with your kid in the backyard for 30 minutes, or helping your wife cook dinner, or cleaning up after. It's these little things that we negate because to be blunt, we're sorry. We feel sorry for ourselves. Woe is me. This is terrible. This is this. Change your words.
Yep. Yeah. And I think that shift is important. And I'm curious, gonna kind of dig into this one. Is there a hard that you're avoiding personally right now that you're like, oh, yep, I know exactly what I'm going to answer?
I know.
This week, is there something that you're like, oh, I avoided that yesterday. I shouldn't have done that.
Well, there's always instances in my day where I'm not perfect, but no, as far as the global hard, what my purpose, what my vision is right now, no, I am set on it. I'm cleaning things up around it to give it the room that it needs. Because there's many things that I do that are taking time away from it, taking energy away from it. Yep. But that dedicated, so right now mine is to help the mental health of veterans. Awesome. And just going to start a program with George W. Bush Institute to help bring this to life. Well, for the next 6 months, that's going to be my focus. That's my hard. And you know what? The way I know it is because I feel peace at it. Like I'm okay saying no to other things for a period because it's 6 months, right? And then after that, there will become another period where I implement this thing. But it took me a while to get there. It took me a long time to figure out what my easy, hard versus, and trust me, sometimes, man, like a new thing will come along, some bright, shiny object and be like, Bobby, no, this isn't what you need to be doing at this moment. Another thing, when I said you say yes to one thing, no to something, you can also say no, not now.
Right.
So you put a boundary on it, but you can reconsider it later on in your life. Yep. And getting to that point, man, it's wonderful. Like you
Yeah.
wake up and you don't have procrastination. You don't have, because it's so ingrained in you. Your hard heart is so ingrained in you, and you've given yourself the tools that you can protect and go out and do it. It's like an energy boost, man. It's like
Yeah.
a dopamine hit. It's everything that people are searching. If it were a drug, like I told you before, everyone would take it because
Sure.
it makes you feel so much better. And this comes from a guy was depressed, given up on life.
Yeah.
Someone told me one time, hope can stand, an acronym for that can be has one person ever. Well, if you're a person who needs an inspiration, look to me, but only look to me as inspiration. I'm not here to motivate you. Only you can inspire and really, truly do the work. But like, just like David Goggins was for me, like I heard his story, boom. I said, I want to be that guy. Now it was messy and I didn't become David Goggins, but at the same time, I became my version of my upgraded man, like the upgraded version of Bobby. I even said the old Bobby was Bobby 1.0. Then I did Bobby 2.0, but now I'm in Bobby 3.0. Well, when is 4.0, 5.0 going to happen? Who knows?
Right.
But as long as I'm open and willing to do it and use the self-evaluation, self-assessment techniques, I think I'll be okay, because I don't want to go back to that old self. And I also don't dwell in your old self. Whatever's past is past. Whatever's in the future, you can't control either one of those.
Right.
Be here, be now, control this moment, control this day. And I guarantee you, I know as obtuse as it sounds, if you give yourself permission and start implementing some of these things, you're going to find your hard fairly soon.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's been great. That's great advice. And that's kind of like the upgrade, man. And we switched the branding and everything because, we wanted to help men who refuse to be complacent. And that's the part of it too. It's a journey. You can continue to upgrade. It's not about, it's not a destination. There's not tiers to it. It's a journey the whole time. So you're just every day, how can we improve? How can we continue to, improve our family, our finances, our relationships, all that stuff. And so this has been a great conversation. I'm super glad to have had you on here. It's kind of like the first Upgrade Man guest, Bobby. And so the last thing that we kind of are implementing on the show, which I'm excited about, is we're doing the upgraded Upgrade Man journal. And what this is going to be is there's going to be a log in here, and after every guest is going to read the log before them. So for example, I started this one. I'm going to give this to you to read, and then you're going to be able to respond or make a comment however you want to do it. And then you're going to leave for the next guest a question, a comment, a quote, something motivational, something like that for them to read on their episode of the show. And we're going to kind of just help leave tidbits for each other as we continue to grow this show. So I'm really excited for that one. For this, it's a little bit different. So hopefully I explained that well. I'm going to send you kind of the first one here in the chat since we're virtual. I'll let you read it and just let it sit with you in whatever you feel like responding to it.
All right. So the quote or comment here is, your 10-year-old self would be proud you made it this far and accomplished so much. Don't stop now. Yeah. I think my 10-year-old self would be completely overwhelmed with the places I've gone and the people I've seen, the things I've done beyond its wildest imagination. And I love that quote so much, or that statement so much, because maybe that's what we need as men to upgrade. Maybe we need to go back and look at the 10-year-old version of ourselves and take stock. Like, we're not failures. Look at what we've done, how far we've come. It's really cool. I think the only time you should ever look back is when it's positive. And I think that's a great thing. And that's a good reminder for me today, is like, hey, what was 10-year-old Bobby doing and thinking, and what would he say today? I hope he'd be proud. I know I'm certainly proud when I think about it, because that was 38 years ago. And like you said earlier, time goes by fast. So that's a really great one. Awesome. Yeah. So I think based on the conversation we have today, and I know the other person may or may not have listened to this by the time they get on here, I would like to leave for someone. Are you the man you want to be, or are you just thinking about it? I hope I didn't jump the line in the way this process is
No.
going to work. But
Love
that
it.
would be what I would enter to the journal, because I'd be very interested to hear what your next guest says, and I'll certainly be tuning in to find out.
Awesome. Yeah. And everyone, make sure you tune in to the next episode to see how our guest responds to that. Bobby, I think that was a great way to end it. And so, again, it's been just a great conversation. I think what you're doing is great, especially with your next mission on helping military individuals with their mental health. So super excited to see what you do there. But again, thanks so much for being on the Upgraded Man podcast today. Where can people connect with you if they want to learn more, get your help, or see what you're doing with military vets?
Yeah, absolutely. Easiest is website, since we said it a lot of times. Easy hard versus hard. I'm also on LinkedIn. You can find me there. Self Leadership Lab is on all the major platforms, YouTube, Apple, whatever, if you're interested in finding out more there. But yeah, that's where they can get in touch with me. And my email's on there. Please send me a note. I'd be more than happy to talk to anybody if I can help them in any way.
Awesome. Well, yeah, everyone take him up on that. Get connected with Bobby. Just continue to learn from him and what he's doing out there. And if you're not following the Upgraded Man podcast yet, make sure you hit that follow button so we can continue to do this and continue to put out episodes and share this with a guy out there who needs to hear it, who's trying to upgrade their life, trying to figure out all the pieces that they've got going on. And we can help more people together by sharing. So thanks again for doing that. But until next time, continue to upgrade yourself, and we'll talk to you again soon.